The rain pounded against her like countless silver needles. Sarah Calloway stood outside the banquet hall, soaked to the bone, but her heart was bleeding. Inside, the hall was brightly lit. Darian Voss's voice echoed through the microphone. Coming through coldly, I, Darian Voss, future Alpha, formally reject you as my mate. Those words were like a knife, stabbing straight into her chest. The laughter of the surrounding nobles came in waves, piercing her ears. She is nothing but a half-blood, completely unworthy of our pure bloodline. Sarah's nails dug deep into her palms. How much had she done for him? Handled pack affairs, endured the vicious rumors, suppressed her own bloodline, and all she got in return was this public humiliation. The rain blurred her vision, but strangely, after the pain reached its absolute peak, she actually felt a flicker of relief, something that had been sleeping for a long time, like a flame quietly awakening in her veins. She turned and stumbled away into the rainy night. The streetlights cast a dim, yellow glow. A tall figure stood in the shadows, dressed in black, his silver, gold eyes faintly glowing in the dark. It was the Lycan King, Cale Grayson. Sarah's heart skipped a heavy beat. She didn't know where the courage came from, but she walked straight up to him. Her voice was trembling, yet resolute. Do you need a wife? Marry me, right now. Cale's eyes flickered slightly. Hidden within them were 23 years of secrets and a long wait. He spoke in a deep rumble. Are you sure? Once you make this choice, there is no turning back. Sarah wiped the rainwater from her face. Her voice grew clearer. I am sure. I would rather marry a stranger than continue being their pawn. Lightning flashed across the night sky, illuminating the space between them. Cale reached out his hand. His palm was scorching hot, like a hidden flame. He gently grasped her freezing fingers. In that moment, Sarah felt the bloodline within her give a gentle tremble, as if answering some ancient call. Then, starting tonight, you are my queen. A brief ceremony was completed in the pouring rain. The flames of their bloodlines faintly surfaced between them, weaving gold and silver light together. That night, with one impulsive marriage, she completely rewrote her destiny. From the discarded mate of the Ironvale pack to the new queen of Drazenvale Castle. No one knew. This was only the beginning of a much greater awakening. The ancient doors of the castle slowly opened. Sarah stepped into an unfamiliar world. The air was thick with the scent of ancient magic, and the bloodline within her was quietly stirring, waiting to fully awaken. The carriage raced through the dark night. The rain was gradually slowing down. Sarah leaned back against the seat, her body still shivering slightly. Cale sat opposite her. He rarely spoke, only glancing at her occasionally. Those silver, gold eyes seemed to hide countless stories. Why did you say yes to me? Sarah finally asked, her voice still carrying the damp chill of the rainy night. Cale remained silent for a moment, his deep voice broke the quiet, because you deserve a better choice. The carriage rolled to a stop. A magnificent castle loomed before them, drays in veil. Moonlight spilled over the ancient stone walls. The air carried a faint trace of magic. Servants quickly approached to welcome them. They kept their heads bowed, their movements synchronized and deeply respectful. Sarah was led into a lavish bedroom, a warm fireplace, a soft, plush bed. Everything felt so unfamiliar. She stood before the mirror, looking at her soaked, formal gown. Suddenly, feeling like this was all a dream. A knock came at the door. Kale walked in. He had changed into a dark robe, making him look even more imposing. "Get some rest tonight," he said calmly. "Tomorrow, I will show you everything you need to know about this place." Sarah nodded, but couldn't hold back her question. "Who exactly are you, and why do you have a castle like this?" The corner of Kale's mouth twitched slightly, forming a rare, subtle smile. "I am the Lycan king. This is my kingdom and your new home." He turned to leave, but stopped at the doorway. "Sarah, from this day forward, no one will ever hurt you again." The door closed. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, her heart still racing. She touched the hand he had held earlier. The burning sensation still seemed to linger there. The night deepened. Outside the window, the moonlight flowed like water. She could faintly feel it, that bloodline within her, giving another gentle tremor, as if responding to this new world, and as if reminding her that the true secrets were only just beginning. Early the next morning, a mysterious woman appeared in the grand hall. She looked at Sarah with complex eyes. "You look so much like her from 23 years ago." Morning sunlight poured into the room. Sarah slowly opened her eyes. An unfamiliar ceiling, an unfamiliar bed. Everything from last night felt like it was still a dream. She got up and walked to the window. The scenery of Drazenvale unfolded before her eyes. Towering spires, dense forests, and the faint outline of mountains in the distance. Everything carried an ancient and mysterious aura. A knock echoed on the door. A servant entered carrying breakfast. Her movements gentle, her tone respectful. "Your Majesty, the king invites you to join him in the grand hall after you eat." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "Your Majesty." This title sounded so unreal. Down in the hall, Kale was already seated at the head of the table. Today, he wore a dark gray robe. His silver, gold eyes looked even sharper in the light. "Did you sleep well?" he asked in a deep voice, laced with concern. "Not bad." Sarah took her seat, though feeling a bit uneasy. "I want to know more about you and about this place." Kale nodded. He waved a hand to dismiss the servants. "This is Lycan territory. We abide by the ancient laws, completely different from the pure-blood supremacy of Ironvale." Sarah listened, her fingers lightly tapping the table. Why choose me that night in the rain? You could have easily said no. Kale's gaze softened just a fraction, because I have been waiting a long time for someone who could break the old rules. Mid-conversation, Sarah suddenly felt a rush of warmth inside her, like fire flowing through her veins. She pressed a hand to her chest, frowning slightly. Are you all right? Kale immediately stood up and rushed to her side. I am fine, just a little hot. Sarah took a deep breath. The sensation quickly subsided, but she vaguely sensed that something was hiding inside her body. That afternoon, an elegant woman came to visit. She introduced herself as Lady Neva from the Avara family. A flash of surprise crossed her eyes when she saw Sarah. You look exactly like the princess from back then, Lady Neva whispered, stopping herself almost immediately. Sarah's heart raced. Princess? What did that mean? Kale watched quietly from the side, not interrupting, but offering her a reassuring look. Night fell once again. Sarah was taking a solitary walk down the corridor. An ancient mural on the wall caught her eye. It depicted a woman bathed in gold and silver light who looked strikingly similar to her. She reached out to touch the painting. A faint, burning heat transferred to her fingertips. Her bloodline trembled once more. A deep wolf howl echoed from the distance. Kale appeared at the end of the hallway. Some secrets are meant to be revealed slowly. Morning mist blanketed the castle. Sarah pushed open the window. The fresh air washed over her face. She felt her body much lighter than yesterday. Kale was already waiting for her at the training grounds. He was shirtless, swinging a longsword, his movements fluid and powerful. Sweat glistened in the morning light. You are here. He stopped, handing her a glass of water. Today, I'll show you the kingdom. They walked side by side along a garden path, the flowers blooming with a strange, magical luster. Sarah couldn't help but bring up last night. What Lady Neva said. What did it mean? Kale paused his steps for a fraction of a second. Some history takes time to explain, but you don't need to worry. I will protect you. Suddenly, a scorching heat erupted in Sarah's chest, like a blazing fire. She doubled over, gasping for air. Sarah, Kale immediately caught her. He pressed his palm against her back, sending waves of soothing warmth into her. The heat wave grew stronger. Visions flashed before Sarah's eyes. Gold and silver light, an ancient palace, a woman wearing a crown, reaching out to her. What is this? Her voice trembled. Kale's eyes were serious, yet filled with relief. Your bloodline is awakening. Don't be afraid. Take a deep breath. The heat slowly receded. Sarah stood up straight. She felt a surge of power coursing through her limbs. Her vision had become sharper, too. I just saw a woman. She looked a lot like me. Kale nodded. She is your mother, the last princess of the Drazen family. 20 3 years ago, she entrusted you to me. Sarah froze. A princess, her own mother. It was all happening too fast. That afternoon, they went to the library. Ancient scrolls were piled high on the shelves. Lady Neva appeared once more. She brought a yellowed genealogy book. Look at this. Lady Neva turned the pages. A gold and silver crest was drawn upon it. Sarah's name was clearly listed. The flame of her bloodline jumped lightly once again. This time it was gentler, like it was welcoming her home. As night fell, the voices of uninvited guests echoed from outside the castle. Envoys from Ironvale, carrying a message from Darien. They want you back. Kale stood by the window, his eyes turning icy. Now, it is time they learned the truth. The night wind blew through the castle corridors. Sarah stood by the window, unable to calm her racing thoughts. Kale approached her, his voice deep but firm. Those people are here. They want to take you back. Sarah turned around, her gaze noticeably sharper. I won't go back. This is where I belong. In the grand hall, the Ironvale envoy stood in the center. Darian's voice emanated from a letter, issuing a cold command. Sarah, return immediately. It is your duty. Listening to it, a surge of anger rose in Sarah's chest. The old her would have bowed her head, but the current her was already different. Lady Neva walked in just then. She brought more ancient scrolls. It is time you knew the whole truth. The scrolls unfurled. The gold and silver crest shimmered faintly. Sarah's name, connected directly to the Drayson royal bloodline. A conspiracy 23 years ago forced her to hide her identity. You are the lost princess. Lady Neva said softly. Your mother entrusted you to Kale, hoping you would grow up safe. Sarah felt the fire within her burn again, this time stronger than ever before. More visions flooded her mind. Her mother's smile, the ancient palace, and the stolen throne. Kale took her hand. A warm current flowed in, stabilizing that restless power. You don't have to accept it right away, but your bloodline is calling you. The envoy's face drastically changed. He took a step back. Impossible. She is just a half-blood. Sarah took a deep breath. She raised her hand. A faint golden light materialized in her palm. It was the proof of her bloodline's first manifestation. The hall fell silent. Only the sound of crackling flames could be heard. Kale looked out the window. Tomorrow, the neutral tribunal will hold a meeting. They must face reality. The night wind blew through the castle corridors. Sarah stood by the window, unable to calm her racing thoughts. Kale approached her, his voice deep but firm. Those people are here. They want to take you back. Sarah turned around, her gaze noticeably sharper. I won't go back. This is where I belong. In the grand hall, the Ironvale envoy stood in the center. Darian's voice emanated from a letter, issuing a cold command. Sarah, return immediately. It is your duty. Listening to it, a surge of anger rose in Sarah's chest. The old her would have bowed her head, but the current her was already different. Lady Neva walked in just then. She brought more ancient scrolls. It is time you knew the whole truth. The scrolls unfurled. The gold and silver crest shimmered faintly. Sarah's name, connected directly to the Drayson royal bloodline. A conspiracy 23 years ago forced her to hide her identity. You are the lost princess, Lady Neva said softly. Your mother entrusted you to Kale, hoping you would grow up safe. Sarah felt the fire within her burn again, this time stronger than ever before. More visions flooded her mind, her mother's smile, the ancient palace, and the stolen throne. Kale took her hand. A warm current flowed in, stabilizing that restless power. You don't have to accept it right away, but your bloodline is calling you. The envoy's face drastically changed. He took a step back. Impossible. She is just a half-blood. Sarah took a deep breath. She raised her hand. A faint golden light materialized in her palm. It was the proof of her bloodline's first manifestation. The hall fell silent. Only the sound of crackling flames could be heard. Kale looked out the window. Tomorrow, the neutral tribunal will hold a meeting. They must face reality. Morning sunlight poured into the hall. Sarah stood by the window, her emotions somewhat complex. Kale walked over, wearing a dark cloak, his eyes full of determination. Today, we go to the neutral tribunal. They need to hear your story. Sarah took a deep breath. Will they believe it? I am just a former half-blood. Kale clasped her hand, his palm radiating warmth. Your bloodline will prove everything. Don't be afraid. I am right beside you. The carriage drove toward the neutral tribunal. The ancient building stood tall in the valley, stone pillars towering, carved with runes. A solemn atmosphere hung heavy in the air. The hall was already packed with representatives from all factions. The Iron Veil elders sat on the left. Darian stood among them, looking at her with disdain. Sarah Calloway, one of the neutral elders, began. You have been demanded to return, to fulfill your mate duties. Sarah lifted her head. Her voice rang clear and powerful. I am already married to the Lycan king, Kale. Whispers erupted across the room. Darian scoffed. Just a discarded woman trying to climb the social ladder. Sarah felt the fire ignite inside her. She stepped forward. You kept calling me a half-blood, but you were actually wrong. Lady Neva stepped forward then. She unfurled the genealogy scroll. The gold and silver crest flashed brilliantly in the light. Sarah is the heir to the Drayson royal bloodline, the princess who was lost 23 years ago. The hall instantly plunged into silence. Darian went pale. The elders exchanged bewildered glances. Sarah closed her eyes. A wave of heat rushed to her heart. She focused her mind. A bright golden light manifested in her palm, followed by twining threads of silver light. This is a bloodline awakening. The neutral elder gasped in awe. Kale stood beside her. His eyes also glowed with silver, gold light, as if responding to her call. Darian took a step back, his voice trembling. This is impossible. End of chapter 6. Hook. The neutral elder slammed his gavel. The hearing will resume tomorrow. Princess Sarah's identity requires final verification, and you, Darian Voss, will face the consequences of your choices. Early the next morning, the neutral tribunal gathered once more. Tension filled the hall. All representatives sat rigidly in their seats. Sarah stood in the center. She wore a dark robe, embroidered with gold and silver patterns. Kale stood beside her like a silent mountain. The neutral elder struck his gavel. We shall now resume the hearing. What evidence does Darian Voss's faction present? Darian stepped forward, his voice laced with anger. She is just a half-blood, completely unworthy of any title. Rejecting her was the right choice. A few voices in the crowd murmured in agreement. Listening to those words, the fire in Sarah's chest began to churn, but she didn't flinch. Lady Neva stepped out, her voice steady and commanding. The evidence is right here. The genealogy scroll was rolled out once more, the ancient records plain for all to see. Sarah took a deep breath. She walked forward one step. You thought I was of lowly blood, but in truth, I am the heir of Drayson. Heat surged through her entire body. She closed her eyes and focused. Golden light erupted from her palms. Silver threads coiled upward like flames. The entire hall was illuminated. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Darian's face was ashen. He stumbled back 2 steps. This is fake. Kale's voice rang out, deep yet full of absolute authority. Bloodlines do not lie. The conspiracy of 23 years ago is time to end. The neutral elders exchanged glances. One elder spoke slowly. The bloodline proof is valid, but we still require the final shift ceremony. Sarah felt the power rushing through her body. She looked at Darian. Memories of her past humiliation flashed through her mind, but she was no longer that abandoned person. Kale gently took her hand. A warm current steadied her restless blood. No matter the outcome, I am with you. The hearing was temporarily adjourned. Outside, a light rain began to fall. Sarah stood on the veranda, raindrops hitting the stone steps. End of chapter 7. Hook. Night was approaching. The final shift ceremony would take place under the moonlight, and all truths would be completely laid bare. Night fell over the neutral tribunal. Moonlight bathed the ancient stone steps. The air was thick with tension. All representatives gathered once again. Sarah stood on the central platform, silver moonlight draped over her completely. Kale stood not far away, guarding her with unwavering eyes. The neutral elder's voice echoed out, "Let the shift ceremony begin. Prove your bloodline." Sarah took a deep breath. The fire within her burned fiercely. She closed her eyes, embracing that ancient power. A wave of heat consumed her. Her bones let out a soft, cracking sound. Gold and silver light poured from her skin. Her silhouette began to change. The crowd gasped in shock. Sarah's body stretched with graceful elegance. Fur grew like threads of spun silver. Her eyes shifted into a dazzling silver. Gold, a powerful and beautiful wolf form, was revealed. "This is a true royal shift," an elder said, his voice shaking. Darian was deathly pale. He backed away a few steps. "Number, this is impossible. You are just a half-blood reject." Sarah, in her wolf form, let out a low growl. The sound carried the terrifying weight of a sovereign. Light exploded once more. She shifted back to her human form, but now radiating an entirely new aura. Lady Neva stepped up, her voice clear and resonant. "The bloodline is proven. Sarah is the lost princess of Drayson, the rightful heir." Kale walked forward and took her hand, his warmth anchoring everything. "You did it." The hall fell into a prolonged silence before erupting into chaotic chatter. The pure-blood elitists looked at each other in horror. Their world was crumbling. Sarah looked at Darian. The memory of his betrayal flashed by, but she was no longer angry. Only calm remained. "I will not go back," she stated firmly. "I choose my own path." End of chapter 8. Hook. The moonlight grew brighter. The neutral tribunal made its preliminary ruling, but an even bigger storm was fast approaching. The moonlight slowly faded. The neutral tribunal hall remained brilliantly lit. The atmosphere was even more tense than before. Sarah stood in the center, the residual glow of her shift still swirling around her. Kale guarded her left side. Lady Neva stood on her right. The neutral elder struck the gavel. "We now announce the final hearing. Darian Voss's faction may deliver their closing statement." Darian stepped up. His face was still ashen, but he feigned composure. "Even if she has royal blood, it doesn't change the fact that I rejected her. Ironvale needs a pure-blood heir." A scattering of voices in the crowd agreed. Sarah looked at him. The heartbreak she once felt had completely vanished, leaving only a calm resolve. She stepped forward, her voice clear and loud. "When you rejected me, you thought I was just a disposable pawn. Now that the truth is out, what you fear isn't me, but the collapse of your own ambitions." Flames ignited in Sarah's palms once again. Gold and silver lines wove into a dazzling crest, illuminating the entire hall brightly. "I won't use revenge to answer your betrayal. But I won't back down either. My place is in Drazenvale as the Lycan King's queen and as the heir to the Drazen bloodline. Kale's voice was deep and powerful. Anyone who attempts to tear us apart will face the response of the Lycan kingdom. Darian's hands trembled slightly. He looked to the elders, seeking support, but saw only shaking heads and silence. The neutral elder stood up, his voice solemn, based on the bloodline proof and the shift ceremony. Sarah Dracen's status as princess is officially confirmed. Darian Voss's rejection holds no legal validity. Ironvale must suffer the corresponding consequences. Applause erupted in the hall. Some pure-blood elitists lowered their heads in silence. Sarah felt the heavy burden on her shoulders finally lift. She turned her head to look at Kale, her eyes full of gratitude and determination. Kale gave a gentle nod, his silver, gold eyes brimming with tenderness. You are free, and you have a new home. End of Chapter 9. Hook. After the hearing concluded, the night wind blew across the courtyard. An even bigger decision lay before Sarah. How would she choose her future path? A gentle night breeze brushed through the courtyard. Sarah stood on the stone steps. Moonlight poured over her. Everything had finally settled down. Kale walked up beside her, his silver, gold eyes reflecting the moon. You are free now. You can choose any path you wish. Sarah turned her head, looking at the man who had grabbed her hand on that rainy night. 23 years of waiting, a silent guardianship. A wave of warmth flooded her heart. I won't go back to Ironvale. Her voice was firm but soft. There are only shadows of the past there. Kale nodded slightly. He didn't push for answers, just quietly stood by her side. I choose to stay here, Sarah continued, in Drazenvale, as your queen, and as myself. The fire danced gently between them, intertwining gold and silver light, as if blessing this choice. Kale held out his hand. His palm was still as warm. I have waited for this day for a very long time. Sarah took his hand. The bloodline in her body was no longer restless, but flowed steadily, like it had finally found its true home. In the distance, Lady Neva and the elders watched quietly. They knew a new era was about to begin. Sarah looked up at the night sky. The stars were shining. She was no longer that abandoned girl. She was Seraphine Dracen, queen of the Lycan kingdom, the master of her own destiny. The story pauses here. It is not an end, but a brand new beginning. If you loved this story, from betrayal to awakening, please like, share, and comment your thoughts. The next turning point in your destiny might just be tonight. See you in our next story.